Welcome to People with Purpose. I am your host, Sylvain Rochon. I'm a speaker, an author, a serial entrepreneur, and a business strategist. My purpose is to engineer a paradise on Earth using cutting-edge technology. I hope this show will give you excellent examples of individuals that chose to do great things in their personal and professional lives. Perhaps they will inspire you to follow in their footsteps. The show's format is very simple. I ask my guests 3 simple questions. What is your personal purpose? Why is it important to you? And how did you get started? Now let's hear from our guest.
Hello everybody, I'm here with Zoltan Istvan. He is a leading transhumanist, a speaker, a best-selling author, a serial entrepreneur, and a California governor, well, the California governor candidate for the Libertarian Party. And he's sitting here with me, ready to talk about himself. Hello, Istvan.
Hi, how are you doing today?
I called you Istvan, Zoltan. That's fine.
That's fine.
You know, in some cultures, they actually use the last name as an appellation.
Of course, of course.
So maybe I wasn't wrong.
No,
anyway.
Yeah, I mean, you can do it either way.
Anyway, thank you for being here. Now, Zoltan, a lot of people don't know what transhumanist means. So can you tell us what that is in your own words?
Absolutely. Transhumanism is a social movement of maybe tens of millions of people around the world now that want to use radical science and technology to improve the human body and also to improve the human experience. Can be anything from exoskeleton suits to driverless cars, simple things like that, to brain implants.
Yeah. So all the cool stuff.
All the cool stuff.
But yeah, it's about improving humanity and the human being through using technology in a rough sense. Cool. All right. Well, now that's done. Let's get down to the basic question of the channel of People with Purpose. What is, Zoltan, what is your life purpose?
Well, my life purpose is really, in one very simple sentence, using science and technology to overcome biological death. That's what I am trying to do. That's really the number one focus of transhumanism. Its number one goal for almost all transhumanists is to overcome death with science and technology. So I am specifically dedicating the last almost 10 years of my life now to this very, very specific goal.
Very cool. And just so you know, I interviewed Aubrey de Grey on this channel, a few weeks ago. And I know him quite well, and he, of course, is one of the leading researchers on defeating he calls it treating aging, because he figures, well, aging is more like a disease that has 100% mortality rate currently, and everybody has it. But through science and technology, we can alleviate that issue. Is that?
Yeah, no, that's 100% it. Aubrey's a good friend. Aubrey was the advisor during my presidential campaign, to my campaign. And so, I've worked with him a lot, and he's 100% right. You know, one of my main goals is actually telling people that aging shouldn't be seen as something natural, but aging is indeed a disease to be cured. The human being, the human body is sort of like a car. It's a machine. It can be modified. It can be improved. We can make a car last millions of miles. We just replace parts. I think the human body is identical to that.
And what do you think, because I talk about this as well, but I want you to hear it in your own words and how you see it. How do you think society would transform itself if we had the opportunity or the option to live infinitely?
Well, I mean, this is such an amazing question, because when you look at a world where people might even just live, let's say 150 or 200 years, already various institutions we know could fall apart. I mean, I've said this before, right now there's mandatory high school education, but if people are living 200 years, is there going to be longer education levels? Will college some point become mandatory? What about having children? If you're going to live 500 years, are you going to have children the first 30 or 40 years of your life? And marriage is very different. When you say marriage to, death do us part, it's usually a 30 or 40 year marriage. Mm-hmm. What if it's a 1,000-year marriage? It makes it so you may not want to get married, or at least the terms could be different. But the various institutions that we have could become substantially different through this idea of living even just twice or 3 times as long as we live right now.
Oh, absolutely. We're talking about not only through the the development of treatments for aging, but through other technologies like even development of AI, machine learning, nanotechnology, and all these other techniques or tools. Society will inevitably need to transform itself to adapt to a very different reality, right? So why is this paradigm, like the eternal life paradigm, or the upcoming reality, we can call it even that? What is that? Why is that so important to you personally?
Well, I like life and I think it's great, but our brain, this thing on top of our head, it's just 3 pounds, 3 pounds of meat. And when you talk about merging with machines or artificial intelligence, which might have the computing power of 1,000,000 times our brain, I mean, it could be dramatically different. Our experiences, we're limited to 5 experiences, right now with our body as sight, smell, touch. But in the future, it might be dramatically different. And that's what I'm really excited about, is I want to experience that, because it's not just space travel, and it's all becoming a different type of species. It's uploading yourself in machines. It's having 5 arms instead of just 2 arms. I mean, everything can be different. And that's very interesting. I like the exploring aspects of it.
So it sounds to me a little bit like quote unquote, you're a gadget guy, but for science and longevity. It's like you want to see how it tastes, feels. You want to see more life. You want to see how society perhaps evolves through these technologies and through a longevity that is way beyond what we're seeing now. Is that accurate?
Well, that is accurate. And, I'm also a father. I'm married, and I have 2 young daughters. So I also want to see them live. My father died this last year, and it's kind of a sad circle when someone close to you, their life ends. Especially for me, I'm a secular person, or essentially an atheist. Mm-hmm. I don't really believe in anything. I just think the worms eat us or whatever, or we get cremated or whatever. But so when you have a family of children, you want them to live also. So. And people, neighbors, friends, societies, I hate to see everything end. And transhumanism is really this application of a machine body, a machine organs to our lives so that we can transcend the limits of biology.
Yeah, it's really interesting stuff for sure. And I'm curious about, when did you kind of fall into the cauldron of this? Like when did these ideas kind of come to fruition, and this passion for these particular concepts come to life?
Well, when I was in college, I read an article on cryonics, and where you freeze dead people so that they can be brought back to life in the future. And I was immediately struck by this is an amazing movement. But I then kind of went on after college, and I was a journalist for National Geographic for many, many years. Then I had a very close call. I covered mostly conflict zones, or at least a lot of conflict zones. And I had a very close call with a landmine in Vietnam that really got me thinking this was very scary. I could have died. Mm-hmm. And if I had died, then everything that could have been beautiful in life, I would have missed. So I, at that point, came home to America and dedicated my life to transhumanism, when I then wrote a book, The Transhumanist Wager, and kind of got into the public eye because of it. And then ran for the presidency as a transhumanist. But basically everything I've been doing is trying to, with this kind of singular approach, that death is bad and it can be overcome with science and technology, with transhumanist technology. So how can we get to that future more quickly? Because as you know, our governments don't really want to spend much money on radical science, but I want them to spend as much money as, well, not necessarily governments also, but also just private enterprises. But a lot of people don't think like that. They think more like, oh, let's go to Walmart and buy another TV. And I'm like, no, let's spend this money on bionic hearts, on artificial lungs, on, robotic eyes. Cool stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've seen a lot of programs over here in Canada where I am, and also in some programs in some states where the state doesn't develop these like new things, but they set up programs to encourage innovation from entrepreneurs, because usually it's the entrepreneurs that are risk takers.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily want your government to say, hey, let's do something really weird using taxpayer money. That doesn't really go well. But setting up tax credits, for example, that specifically for innovation, R&D, longevity research, or whatever it is, then letting the entrepreneurs taking the risk, using their own money and, of course, investor money, that works really well. We have a lot of models over here in many states. There's a lot of success that happens. There's a lot of interest in innovation. We see it with Zuckerberg and Elon Musk right now, because you saw the Falcon Heavy rockets go up in the sky yesterday. So I think these are great approaches, and honestly, Zoltan, I think we need a lot more of people like yourself that are rational thinkers, that are scientifically minded, to guide us in politics. Because I mean, politics are filled with politicians. I mean, it sounds kind of a circular statement, but I think people that are watching understand what I mean. Is like we need people that want to progress beyond the machinations of politics that are currently invading pretty much everything. And you are a bright light to me as a futurist myself. So I'm excited about the same things you are. If we have more people like you in positions of governance, then perhaps we would be able to alleviate a lot of the suffering that we currently have in society using the available technology that we have right now. That's amazing.
Yeah. No, I agree. And one of my jobs has been to try to recruit a lot more futurists and transhumanists to run for office, because I feel like science is completely underrepresented, at least in America, where, truly they don't want to talk about radical things because they just want to talk like, bombs and military and whatnot. But unfortunately, that's not really what really helps the American people. What really helps the American people is curing heart disease, where a third of everybody we know dies from heart disease. And yet we still don't spend any real money on the bionic heart from a point of view of like culture in America or government in America, or even entrepreneurial people. And yet this is a huge way that we could extend our lives and make it so that we could live a lot better. But the point is actually changing culture. And that only happens when you have more people running for office that think first with science, as opposed to think first with, either their legal backgrounds, their lawyers, or their political backgrounds, or whatever it is. I want people to think first science. How can I solve a problem with science and technology? That's how I approach politics.
Well, I'm all for it, Zoltan. Thanks a lot for being with me this evening, since it's pretty late for us both at this time. And I'm hoping people are listening and watching, and maybe I'm hoping you're going to get some emails and phone calls from people that are highly educated, that are thinking in similar ways, and that want to be involved in politics to bring more technology and more science and more rationality into this crazy, crazy ass world.
Absolutely.
So thanks a lot for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I hope you enjoyed the interview. If you did, please subscribe to the channel, comment, like, and share. Please join me also on Clubify, a social app allowing us to share ideas and where you can participate in some of my projects. The link is in the section below. Also, if you wish to recommend someone great I should interview, please let me know. And as always, follow your passion. See you next week.